the year of Superman. Oh, welcome to the Krypton Report. I am your host, Tyler, with my co-host, the Superman of Red, James Cole. Welcome, James.
Hey, how's it going, Tyler?
So today's episode, this is the conclusion of our new monthly format as we're entering the final week of January, kind of, sort of, but just trust me on this one, people. We are playing this episode is dedicated to our episodes of Superboy season 1 at the current moment and catching up on comics. Now, James and I we started talking before we recorded about what we're reading, and they're like, wait, why are we not recording this? So let's get back into
I've been liking the new monthly format we've been doing, though. It's a little less homework for each episode, but we still cover as much as we would in a single month.
Yeah.
It's actually worked this month. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I think it's
a good experiment.
I think it'll be a good, and then we're gonna, I think, kind of keep this format just because it's a little, I'm digging it too. But so we're talking about, we both have, we use the app now. My comics shop near me, the nearest one's like an hour away, and I'll go and try to buy some books sometimes when I can. But with work schedule and everything that I got going on, it's very difficult to find the time to drive the distance.
Yeah, for me, well, sadly, I mean, there was a issue. My local comic shop is back open, but they had a catastrophic. There was a fire a couple of doors down in the shopping center, and most of their damage was water trying to get the fire put out across the place. But that's a lot of books. Some stuff was saved by boxes and boxes and bags, but they were inside of long boxes.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
and we all know that long boxes are just
just cardboard. They soak up water. But anyways, they had a big disaster, but the landlord gave them a new space, and they've been able to work out of that. I haven't been in there, but I read most of my issues on the app. But other books, and especially like Marvel or like Spawn or something, when I pick up trades of those.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to get back into more trades.
Yeah, it's just the cost of weeklies is too much. But a trade every couple of months, every few months, when something new drops, it's a little easier,
So we'll get back into talking about all the books that we're being reading and checking out, and we'll get into it. But let's hit some news. I ran a poll asking what heat vision people want to see. Okay, with the new Superman, do we want laser eyes or like waves of heat fire, how we saw in Smallville and how we saw in Superman Returns? How it was more like waves of heat than just a laser, and energy blasts. And the poll winner was laser eyes. That's so I'm like, okay.
I mean, like the specific laser eyes, like the old Superman and or Lois and Clark, where it's just red beams, like little lasers. Yeah, I think that's a little old for just like the heat vision nowadays.
But even like Man of Steel was like laser eyes, compared.
Yeah, it was a little more about the amount of heat used and what effect it had, like, on everything around it. So like the hotter it was incinerating the air around
Yeah,
it. So
but
'cause-
it's still, but like I said, but there's that distinctive visual difference
yeah,
with Smallville and Superman Returns on the way that it was depicted.
yeah,
And I
those were
like
actually
that.
my favorite, is how
Yeah,
they were
I
depicted in Smallville and Superman Returns. For the longest time, that's been probably
look, I got my hot tea from my Krypton Report mug
nice.
here, available at Tea Public Shop, so you can drink with James Cole out of James Cole. McFarlane,
That's weird.
yep, uh, yes, it is. McFarlane has released its a Power Girl figure, which is more traditional Power Girl. Power Girl is such an interesting character. Sometimes it's like they don't know what to do with her. And I think the new 52 kind of handled her the best in the sense of being uh on our Earth from Earth 2. Um so I I think, and we'll talk about her a little bit later, but I asked our good friend Levi, like, hey man, check this out. Yeah, he's like, Power Girl always just seems like they're just an over sexualized character, that's really what she's about. He's like, I don't know if my wife would appreciate me having that figure. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. My wife be like, so you just have a blonde with boobs hanging out figure, Tyler? Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. So,
That's the idea.
mhm. So I but that we got that
I
McFarlane.
want a super family. I don't have the large collection of figures that you have. But I do try to get like a variety, uh, different versions, different characters, and
Mm.
have a super family. I would get a Power Girl to go along with it.
I would get Power Girl if they would release how she is right now. Like I like the how they all have kind of like the matching jacket type uniforms and everything.
Yeah,
But I do find it funny that they've put everyone in the super family in these matching kind of jacket styled uniforms, but then Superman they've just kind of put back into like traditional classic Superman.
right.
So he like looks like he does, like he's the only one with a cape and everything. Everyone else has got like a jacket, and uh it's just kind of funny to me.
Yeah, and they've got
It's
their
like, all
own
right, we're
style of jacket with their own style of suit underneath. Like John just has his suit. He doesn't have a jacket. He doesn't have a cape.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just kind of funny, but it is what it is. Let's see what else we got here. We got this one. So DC has announced Superman the World by Dan Jurgens and Lee Weeks. It releases on June 24th. They will join a team of 15 international creators to tell tales that highlight what makes Superman the greatest hero of all.
Ooh, nice.
That is a book that I would just go buy.
Yeah.
Like that's one that when it releases, even if it's on the app, I will
Yeah, didn't they just do a Joker the World book?
yeah.
Yeah, different creators all over the world.
And let's see here. This one I didn't have uh, a thing here for us to review, but DC reveals details on its Summer of Superman publishing initiative. Let's see. That's fine. We have before making his splash in DC Universe. Hold on. Where's all the stuff? We have where's the big I hate ads pop-ups on pages. Superman the World, which we just talked about. Superman's Good Guy Gang launches DC's new line of graphic novels for early readers. A can't miss selection of Superman's greatest hits for Superman Day, April 18th, at participating retailers and on DC Infinite. So we're going to highlight that. I'm going to put it in here that Superman Day, there will be a Superman Day from the DC side on, it says April 18th, which is already in my phone. Awesome. But that's a Friday, which I find interesting. So, Summer of Superman initiative featuring an incredible lineup of comic books and graphic novels for fans of all ages. Let's see. What is it? We talked about the Dan Slott, Mark Wade, Josh. There's going to be a Summer of Superman special arriving on Wednesday, April 16th. Okay. All right. Let's see. There'll be
It's always an exciting year when DC leans into Superman.
There'll be an oversized issue, 48-page, on April 23rd for Superman 25. Summer of Superman special. Variant covers. I'm trying to read through this article. I just prefer like bullet points a lot of times, you know. Just give me like bullet points. They're doing this. I don't need it like in an article form. But looks like we got some things coming for interesting. So we'll keep our eyes out for those on the comic side, which is always nice and refreshing. I look forward to that. All right. So now we're going to move on to.
It's nice to see some different Superman books coming out this year.
It'd be nice if we got The Last Days of Lex Luthor #2, but we'll see. We have Ulrich Thompson. It's probably not pronounced
Thompson.
It's probably not pronounced
Ulrich Thompson. Yeah, it's probably got some dialect.
Yeah, it's probably
to it, but
Thompson, something or something. Ulrich here. He's to play Sinestro in HBO's Lanterns. I've seen him and stuff. I was going through here, but nothing that I remember. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully it's a good sign that that Sinestro is in Lanterns. I mean, he is a cosmic villain, and I feel if you're going to have the cosmic side in your DC like that, I mean, you're using Superman clearly. He's got Green Lantern over there. You need to lean into a real cosmic side. He's an alien from another planet, and I want him to look as such. I don't want to have this CW show where Sinestro looks human walking around on Earth and nobody knows it.
Yeah. For real.
So, you know what? I mean, the thing you can say about HBO shows is they do allow for a lot of fantastical stuff. I mean, like Dune, that the Dune Prophecy show that was just on, Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, and they allow for some of that high fantastical and sci-fi stuff. So, I mean, let's definitely get that as opposed to something more grounded, True Detective or even Penguin, you know?
Yeah, I really like True Detective first season.
I mean, I hope for the quality of storytelling, absolutely, but I still we need what Green Lantern is.
I agree. So, um, but yeah. All right. Next thing I got here is Warner Brothers will have a CinemaCon panel on the 1st of April. Last year, James Gunn promised a big presence of Superman at the event with entire cast. So, all right. CinemaCon.
Yeah.
And then the last thing here, we got the first tease of Supergirl and Woman of Tomorrow being filmed with
So
our first behind the scene look
yeah.
of Billy Alcott.
So just looking at the picture, does this look like like an alien bar from,
Yes,
say, like a Guardians,
a little bit, but it
from a
also looks like
Guardian space or something like that?
it also looks like the comic too. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I'm just saying it could be if they're drawing inspiration from that, because or if it's based on that, because that primarily is pretty sure it doesn't take place anywhere on Earth in
nope.
the entire or the entire run. So if is she going to be off world? And I mean, just thinking about that idea, I can see this being something like that, like a Guardians alien bar,
Oh
alien
yeah.
restaurant, something like that. Yeah.
Have you read that book yet?
I read the first 2 or 3 issues when I was picking them up. I haven't finished it though.
I read it. Um, so I read it when um they announced that this was going to be um the basis for the film back when James Gunn announced it.
Makes sense.
Like I read it right then back in 2023, and we will we will reread it and discuss it next year.
Later, I was gonna say at least later this year or next year after Superman is all.
Yeah, it's on our spoiler alert, but next year with the Supergirl movie, we will be doing very Supergirl focused stuff next year.
Hey, back to our roots.
Yeah. So we next year will be definitely a big Supergirl look at things. But yeah, and then this is a little bit better of looking at what the symbol that's on the back of her chair looks like. So that could be what her symbol is.
Right, with the blue background, similar to that of Melissa Benoist, where she had the blue background with just the little yellow around the trim of the S, but different.
So I like to. I mean, if this is what hers is, this is cool because it's the same but just different enough.
Absolutely, yeah.
Um, you know, right here is the post from James Gunn about it. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Thrilled to see cameras roll at Warner Brothers Studios Leavesden on Supergirl.
so I'm excited that they're making this movie, but just hesitant, like because of the story they're choosing. But it's an adaptation. It's so I'm like, okay. I'm like, I didn't. It's not like I didn't like the story. I just think it's a very interesting story to pick from, and we'll discuss that more in the future. But speaking of stories, we watched some Superboy season 1.
Yes, sir.
So let me pull up my notes here, wherever they disappeared to. Where did they go? Oh, here they are. Episode 15, Stand Up and Get Knocked Down. Saturday was first aired February 18th, 1989. TJ finds his friend Michael dead outside the Bonkers Comedy Club. TJ wants to find out what happened to him, so he goes to the club's amateur night. All right, let me pull out the old notes here. All right. This is the first. This is the back half with new intro and style. What did you think of the new intro, James?
Yeah, I mean it was fun. I mean it's uh mostly when it comes to these intros, I tend to listen listen to the music, and that's mostly it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it was TJ, gets a call and Michael dies, and they go to this comedy club, and it was a weird, like, it's a real comedy club that they filmed out of that's in Florida. But I had to be like the waiters and waitresses are all wearing like lumberjack looking, like they all got jeans with red suspenders and these like white button thermal undershirt looking things.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that's how you run your comedy club? Like that's your waiters? Um
Mhm.
and then the
I
thugs
mean,
that
you gotta
show up,
have your thing, right?
I guess, but then the thugs that show up, the one guy who gets out to who's going to talk business, um, he looks like he's from the 70s, like in a leisure suit. And but then what I think is TJ's up there and he supposedly overheard what's being said, and they're like, "Give him this; he'll be dead before he even knows he drank something." And then we find out that the waitress, that's TJ's friend, has track marks all up and down her arms. Um, and there's some crazy, weird saxophone music in this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I was like, "What is this? Lethal Weapon?" Uh, and then like TJ just starts bombing at his comedy act, and I'm like, "Oh, is that the drugs?" No, he just is bombing, and then the drugs kick in later. So I was like, "Okay,
I thought it was the drugs, and he started to bomb, and it just like perpetuated. You know what I mean? Like he was almost hallucinating, um, hearing his friend and stuff like that, and overhearing what he heard. You
yeah."
know, so
But uh, so the thugs get TJ and Clark and the waitress. I can't remember what her name was. They put them in the basement. They put a patch on TJ that's like a drug patch, basically, that's gonna kill him. They put one on Clark, and I was like, okay, cool, a drug patch on Clark. But then TJ, like,
yeah, something about 2 minutes, and 2 minutes within contact of the skin, it starts to be absorbed, and then you die. Like,
yeah, I'm like, great, poor TJ.
yeah.
He he starts hallucinating and kind of like is out of it, and he sees Clark change. He sees him turn into Superboy, and it's kind of funny because he's like, ah, and of course Superboy saves everybody and he rips the ropes, and they they're in the basement of the club, but then they set a fire too, and I was like, how is that productive? Why not just have them tied up, OD them, and then that's it? Like, setting a fire just seems a little overkill because now you're just going to ruin your club. Like, that's a whole nother level of problems.
Yeah, I mean, unless that's your shtick, you've got like some fireproof room that's vented. You can get all the smoke out, and it's not going to go into the club and all that other jazz. Like,
But they stop the bad guys, and then we find out that the waitress lady with the track marks is now in rehab. TJ goes back to the club for amateur night, and Superboy is just standing in the audience. Like, nobody is like, "Oh, Superboy."
right? Like, I'm just here to see my buddy TJ with his stand-up act.
Yeah. Oh, good job, TJ. This is Superboy. Yeah, it was weird. So,
He forgot to
anyways,
change. They called him back to set, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have time for you to change. Got to get this shot."
yeah, yeah, just be Superboy, John.
Yep.
I do want to call out our good friend Brian Peters over from Gravely Amusing. He is watching through Superboy right now. And what's funny is the episodes he were watching last night coincided with the ones we're recording today.
Oh, nice.
So good man, Brian.
I bet he's
Check
got
out.
some things to say about this show.
So Gravely Amusing podcast. Seriously, like even if Brian wasn't my friend, I would listen to that podcast. I enjoy his thorough dissection of the history angle of pop culture. So, all right. But okay, so all right, I'm doing something here with my notes. The next episode, 16, is Meet Mr. Mxyzptlk.
Mhm.
Superboy is called on totem pole from the ground so it can be studied. When he arrives, the totem won't budge. That's a horrible description. But this episode had commentary by John Newton and Ilya Salkind. And man, did John Newton just basically like obliterate and put the things down. Like he sounded like he was joking, but at the same time, he might have been high. I don't know, like, or out of it, or drunk, because like he just sounds so like I don't want to be here. I could care less. And Ilya Salkind, he praises in everything as much as he can as they talk about the actor, who's Academy Award actor who played Mr. Mxyzptlk. And it's the first major Superman villain to appear on this show other than a Lex.
Right. And the Lex that has appeared on this show previous to this is not any sort of comic book villain. I mean, he may have some comic book villainish schemes, but he's got horrible 80s TV schemes. Anyways, the the Mxyzptlk, I remember this version of this character. I've seen this episode when I was a child, but like I couldn't remember anything else about it. But I remember this Mixie.
It was so interesting. It's like a totem, and when he moves the totem, it turns to Mixie. And he mentions the fifth dimension kind of casual. He's like, it's a parallel universe.
Mm-hmm. But his delivery is so deadpan. It's his voice, but his deadpan the sound of his voice, but the deadpan delivery that I don't know. It fits perfect.
But it's interesting. It's like John's talking, and he's like, "Yeah, look at these extras. They want to say lines, but they can't." And like he talks about Mixie's belt on his pants moving around, and he's like, "Is there film actually in Jim's camera?" Like, it's so interesting to listen to. They talk about
to watch that.
They talk about Carrie Bates was writing, who Carrie Bates wrote comics at the time, and then we get into where Mixie like takes on the form of Clark as an alternate Clark to seduce Lana. And then while this is going on, like John talks about how beautiful his hair is. It's funny. Mixie kisses Lana and she calls him a toad, but then that's when he turns into the alternate Clark and tries to like turn things up. And they go like to the pool, and they have Stacy in a one-piece swimsuit, which I thought was interesting because before they put her like in like and on the commentary they both were talking about Stacy, but they have Clark in this very 1940s swimsuit looking thing, like like
he's
a
in
romper
one piece too.
like a romper jumper thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my note says, "Where is the real Clark when Lana is with Mxyzptlk this whole
Yeah.
time?"
'Cause he made a bet with was it Clark or was it Superboy about Lana having Lana fall in love with him.
I'm just like, "Holy cow, man!"
Yeah, and I totally
'Cause
missed where it even came up with the idea of the name having to be said backwards
it's
in this
so what it is.
episode. I missed it. I saw him
He's
figure it out kinda thing, but
yeah,
I
that's
missed
it.
how he figured that's it?
That's all. Yeah,
Oh,
and
okay,
it's
so I was like, I thought I missed something because he just kinda sees the when he Mixie spells his name, it actually, like, appears as, like, a friggin' banner that you can hang, and it
yeah,
falls to the ground, so when he picks it up and he sees it, he just sees it in the water backwards. But
and
how
they
is
yeah,
that in any way, like, get him to say his name backwards and he'll disappear? I didn't and he'll
yeah.
go away. I didn't that's what I was thinking. I was like, "Where did he find that out at?" Or it's just a lucky guess.
I missed it as well. Like that's all I could figure out because we have Lana's really into Clark, and then she finds out it's Mixie in disguise. Um, and the whole time Ilya's praising like John for stuff, and John's like, blah, blah, blah," and they both are talking about Stacy being sexy. It's kind of weird. Um, but then at the end, they have this note that she has to like read, and Stacy's trying to read it, or should I say Lana's reading it, and Mixie's like, "Here, let me do it," because she gets stuck on a word, and he's like starts reading the note, and then it's his name right there backwards, and he's like, "Ah," and then disappears. And that was pretty much the episode. It was
Yeah.
interesting.
It was though. Him disappearing, reappearing, him saying, "I'll meet you on top of this building in 28 seconds," and when he doesn't show up, he poof changes TJ's and Lana's clothes into that ridiculous clown looking outfit with the "I'm waiting" signs.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it was fun. That's why when
it,
I saw it, I was like, "What did I miss?" Like,
Mixie
I
can
was
be a
enjoying
fun
this
character.
episode, but I mean, I have a 3-year-old, so
Doesn't change.
like
They
I've
get
got
older, you're just like,
yeah.
you're like, "Dang it,
I
child."
also have a 15 and a 16-year-old, so until
I
they
know.
reach that age, then they just don't hang around with you. Then that's when you get to sit down and watch stuff without interruption.
And then you're like, "Man, I miss the kids."
Yeah, and
All
then
right.
I miss my kids.
The last episode we did was Superman 17 Bird Woman of the Swamps. And this one, Brian was like, "What is this?" When a bulldozer is turned over a construction site, TJ and Clark decide to investigate. Clark meets an old Indian woman who believes the birds turned over the bulldozer.
Who is a very not recognizable, but very clearly a white woman with a lot of bronzer on.
It is Florida, after all.
So
We have a flip tractor. And she's basically we have a construction people and
she had her birds
Clark and TJ are there.
flip the ground mover.
Yeah. It's like Clark's like, "I'm for the Schuster Herald" and everything. My notes are kind of light on this one, but we get Clark skateboarding. He's skateboarding and does his shirt rip.
I was gonna say he skateboarded for about 6 feet
Yeah, and
before he flew off and left his skateboard lying in the middle of the road.
they try to give us a message about the forest being depleted little by little and how it's destroying the ecosystem. And we later have Clark talking to TJ and Lana, and he makes a quote. He says, "Wise man." It's like, who said that? He's like, "Clark Kent." But then my favorite part is we have this red hatted construction worker whose lines are clearly ADR because you don't see his mouth move or his body move. And they're talking about getting rid of the old Indian woman. And we have Superboy going to see her, and her magic weakens him, of course. But Clark talks to the building manager guy, and he's going to talk to the city council and all this to help. And of course, they're just going to kill the bird lady.
Yeah,
And Clark's all upset because, "Oh man, I didn't think he would be like that." Blah blah blah.
yeah. something about he was going to kill the bird lady. He's using illegal steel.
Yeah,
Something about this steel is not I don't know, suitable to construct with. I'm guessing that's the only reason I could fathom. But yeah, using some sort of illegal steel, and yeah.
it's low caliber, and I mean it's all kinds of stuff like that. Like, and then my favorite part, okay, after the ADR dialogue is when Clark grabs some like uh fencing, like chain link fencing stuff, and he throws it, and it perfectly forms a square cage to
Yeah.
lock the workers away that are fighting.
Right, with 2 extra posts.
Yes, with 2 extra posts that were not in his hand. That is my favorite part. And then, of course, they save it. The bird woman, oh, Superboy, you were, not evil and bad. You actually did help. And then this little background plot that we're not even exploring. It's Ma Kent's birthday, and Clark kept forgetting he was going to get Lana's help to find Ma a present, and he keeps forgetting. And then he's talking to Ma on the phone, and we find out that Lana just went ahead and took care of it.
Oh, well, that was nice of her.
And sent Ma
Lana's
her
awesome.
gift. She is awesome. And like, I feel like this, series at times they explore a type of friendship with the two of them, but then they crank it up, and there's something more. And I feel like if it hadn't been kind of the syndicated style television and been more serialized, I think we would have gotten a better like development of their relationship.
Yeah.
But Brian, it was hilarious because I was talking with him as he was watching some of these episodes, and because he was talking about how this is a really good Pa Kent. And I'm like, yeah, it is. That gets overlooked, And I was like, are you on the episode where he goes to Smallville and he just gets off the bus and kisses a girl? He's like, yeah, I finished that one. What the heck, man?
Yeah, right.
He's like, he just kisses this girl, like all like, yeah, me and Lana are just friends, and then like leaves her and never talks about her again. I was like, man, this Clark is very big on just the
I was gonna
love
say
him
that
and leaving.
Clark is listening to Ludacris's area codes.
Yeah, I mean he's hitting it, so he's all about something.
That was probably a John call. Like,
yeah, he was like,
hey, where's the girl? Where's the extra I'm supposed to make out with this week?
He's like, guys, I have this idea. What if this is Clark's old girlfriend? We explore this whole thing about Clark and having his girlfriend. Let's just cut the subplot. We already filmed this kiss scene. The fans will be confused. Let's just leave it. So, yeah, it was funny. But all right, so that's our Superboy watching. We're making through season 1. I'm enjoying John's Superboy. I don't know how you feel.
I mean, yeah, for the most part, it's just the biggest thing is, like you said, the syndicated nature, where sometimes he acts like a different version of Clark, dependent on whatever the episode calls for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Superboy is pretty standard. And I do like kind of how he can be like a forceful Superboy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of what I see there.
So, all right, it's on to comics. Now, as we get into comics, James, what you been reading just overall in general? I've been trying to hit. I'm gonna say I've been trying to hit all in. A couple of books that I'm reading that I'm gonna have to really reread are The Last Halloween. Like that one, I'm gonna buy and trade when it comes out because that'll be a fun. Just sit down and read the whole thing. And the other is the who knows when I'll ever complete Batman '89 Echoes.
Right. If they'll ever complete it. I don't even think it's done yet. But I mean, so I've been trying to read as many of the all-in books as I can get to. I mean, I've read the Absolute Batman books. The first one, actually, I think I need to read the next two. But I've read all three: Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Superman. I read the New Gods. I jumped. I read some of King's Wonder Woman because I've been reading that run. Green Lanterns, Titans, of course, Action. Taylor's Detective. I've been reading Zdarsky's Batman. I've been reading Williamson's Power Girl, or Williams' Power Girl. So I haven't read the new issue on that. I mean, David Desmalchin's Creature Commandos.
Yep.
The Dark Knights of Steel All Winter book.
That one I'm
I've
waiting
been
until it's
reading.
completed.
I fell off a couple of weeks ago, or rather an issue or two ago, of the Kryptonian Age. I want to catch up on that, but
It's I thought we talked about that one because like it just ends with I didn't really like it.
yeah,
It was too all over the place and it was building up instead of just kind of focusing on like the Kryptonian age part, it just kind of was all over the place.
yeah, they were really opening up a world where Gotham by Gaslight exists. We got some of like we got Talia al Ghul and the League of Assassins, or whatever they're called in that. There's a kryptonite, like a kryptonite ring. I don't know if it's even a Jade, a Green Lantern ring. I haven't finished. So they really used it to just like open up the era, the Earth where Gotham by Gaslight is, and like like you said, there wasn't much focus on anything Kryptonian that I've gotten to yet. It's something they talk about, but nothing concrete that I've seen.
So let's start here. First of all, let's start with Action Comics. That's the biggest one. So Mark Waid and artist Clayton Henry did Action Comics called Phantoms as a weekly book for the past 12 weeks. So we're going to talk about this. It'll be a nice collection. Like this will be a great trade when it comes out. But the base story is the Phantom Zone is acquiring things are starting to become solid mass. And Clark gets pulled in and has to take like he has special wrists, wrist cuffs that are providing him with solar energy so he has his powers in the Phantom Zone. And we see that Zadu the pirate's there, but we actually find out that it's actually Mon-El in disguise. And he's running everything inside the Phantom Zone. And then through machinations, Clark is thrown back in time. And he ends up on Krypton. And he meets his parents and he meets what was his name? See, there's so much. I did not take the notes I should have just because I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was weekly right away.
Well, exactly. It was weekly and then it came out over the last 12 weeks. So like I'm more familiar with between like 1076 and 1081, the second half of the story, than I am entirely on the first half. Just more detailed.
Because we also had backups of adventures with Connor and Keenan and then Supergirl.
Yes.
and then it was the back half that really formed the full story, where basically um, they trick Superman, and he goes to release the Phantom Zone people, the criminals, on a planet with a red sun, but they tricked him and they were released inside the sun because the sun and everything is getting pulled into the Phantom Zone. Um, so then the whole super family comes together to basically all over the galaxy to get the criminals back into the Phantom Zone. And then what happens is you see that the real Zadu is coming back, and they attack in the final issue. They attack the super family, beat the crap out of them, and get them all on this platform that's going to basically torture them, kill them, and take their powers. And what we find out is it was a trick. Zadu was actually Martian Manhunter, and it took all the Kryptonian criminals, their powers, and sent them back into the Phantom Zone. I thought that was a nice way of pulling it back around and surprising us all with what happened. So I really enjoyed this weekly book. I liked having the weekly book. It was exciting to have a Superman book every week. It was a long, sprawling story. But what did you think of Phantoms? What stuck out to you?
I mean, I did. I liked how let's see. You brought up how they got into the sun. I was curious as to how they got in the sun, but then you put it together for me that because the Phantom Zone was like merging or the sun was merging with the Phantom Zone, because that's where like the energy was um being drawn from to generate mass, because there's this being called Aether in
Mhm.
the Phantom Zone, which basically Superman knocks the crap out of and we don't see again. But
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, how did they get in there when the Phantom Zone projector was taken so they could be released? But I was like, yeah, they like crowded the sun or whatever, and like when they released them, that's where they were. It's like, okay, sure. um, I mean, because we've seen like you can be in different areas of the world and stuff in the Phantom Zone, different areas of the universe or whatever in the Phantom Zone.
Hmm. And
Um,
then they're able, like, towards the end, pull Mon-El out to let him help. But um, basically, at the end, he gets sent back into the Phantom Zone because
because
they
of his
haven't.
lead poisoning.
Yeah, and what kills me is, like, at this point, I'm just kind of like, you couldn't, like, he's got lead poisoning, but is it just being on Earth? Like, I don't remember, like, where exactly it all stems from in the actual story. Like, if he went into space and you released him on another planet, like, would the lead poisoning still attack him? It seems that way.
Yeah, I think the lead is in his bloodstream, and it doesn't have anything to do necessarily with like the suns or anything. But it's the lead actually being in him and being in the Phantom Zone. It prevents that poison from affecting him. So he's basically poisoned. His body is poisoned, and I think the reason he's still in the Phantom Zone is because I think the story is he is able to be cured in in the year 3000 with the Legion, and that's when
Hmm.
he's able to get out. But I don't think Superman ever finds that cure. Is the canon story that Superman was never able to find that cure, but eventually he is cured and released from the Phantom Zone. But that's like the year 3000 with the Legion.
I just feel like it's something that Probably. I don't know. It's one of those Superman things that I feel like by now should have been figured out. Like, but yeah, with the Legion makes sense. But he
I
goes
mean,
back.
until you change that canon of the story, I
Yeah,
mean, which I'm sure somebody could, but
but I mean, Mon-El's been pretty absent for a long time, and Mark Waid's been bringing back a lot, and it was the addition of Mon-El being back and everything. Really is what led me in last week when we talked a little bit about how the super family's gotten so big now. There's too many of them. They don't know what to do with them. Like John Kent's been mostly put to the backside with nothing going on. Like
yeah,
he's just the character that pops in here and there.
yeah, we just had an adventure with Connor and Keenan. John Kent nowhere to be found. He's fighting alongside the family in this against all the Kryptonians. Um, but like with the Supergirl backup, did she do her mission and then return to Earth at the same time that this was happening? So she came back to Earth when Superman left Earth for the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
So her story takes place, which is the backup, takes place like before Phantoms, and then in Phantom she's back on Earth, because she even I'm pretty sure in those issues she um, is building a relationship with Power Girl
Mm-hmm.
throughout the Super books.
And the thing is, like with Power Girl, it's like, okay, you got to keep her hair cut shorter, look more like a bob, and Supergirl needs the long blonde hair. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and Power Girl is a little older.
yeah,
She's supposed to look more mature
yeah.
in stature than Supergirl is. Really, the only two differences when it comes their haircut and their stature.
But we find out that they created a program because the Kandorians have exiled Kal-El and Kara. Like they're not allowed to communicate or be considered part of Kryptonian society. And the Kandorians, Kara and Superman had a plan. They kind of tricked them into it. But basically, uh, what's important that the Phantom Zone is back to being a prison rather than a lethal hellscape. And Superman says it was a close vote, but the Science Council agreed on a trial basis to what I proposed. What the zone was always missing was a humane opportunity for redemption. Provide a zoner demonstrates honest and proper penance to their warden, they may be eligible for parole. May. I don't imagine most of them can ever meet those qualifications, but at least mercy, as it should be, is attainable for those willing to do the work. And then they said, well, who's going to be the warden of the Phantom Zone? Of course, dum dum dum, it's Mon-El. And then we have an allusion to, I guess, is that Cyborg Superman is inside the Phantom Zone. Is that
Yeah,
who you took it as?
that's who I took it as. Yeah,
So
which is interesting because you gotta think. Can't remember the last time Cyborg Superman showed up and if he was put into the Phantom Zone. Oh no, he was in a story, and he did exist in the Phantom Zone. He was reaching out through the Phantom Zone, possessing
that was back in Kennedy
somebody.
Johnson's run.
Yeah, yeah. So he was in the Phantom Zone at some point. So yeah,
Yep.
we know. Yeah, that's cool.
Uh, Now I did read the Power Girl All In the past issues, and I actually found them really good. Like I've been trying to stay up on like reading like Power Girl and stuff, like just trying to figure out that character because it's been weird of like I said, like where she fits into everything.
Right.
But the one thing that I found that was really odd, and I'm gonna pull this up, is in the last part of the book, if it wants to load for me, which it doesn't. So Power Girl's name's always been Karen. Okay. Karen Starr. And then recently, where is it? Like they start referring to her. Where is it? Hold on. Where I'm looking for the part where.
It's Paige, but I'm not sure about a last name.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. They renamed her Paige. Where is it? Where is it? And that not Natasha's paired up with them too. She's hanging out with them. They're her and her roommate. She says, "You're a millionaire?" No, Karen Starr is. But she says, "But Paige, where is it? Well, Paige Stellar. But you were broke. Paige Stellar is, but Karen Starr is not. Oh my God, PJ, haha. Karen better be paying for the housewarming party too." So
Ah,
I don't. So I just don't like there. So it ends with Power Girl buying this building that she's going to set up with her and her roommate that she's had a best friend, and Natasha's going to be there moving in with them too. But yeah, like the whole identity thing is that I feel like they tried to move away from like the Karen Star, maybe because the name Karen had become like a negative or something,
maybe.
and, and they gave her
No, I
Paige.
didn't know that Karen Starr was a millionaire.
Yeah, I'm just
I didn't know that she had tons of money.
well, she was a businesswoman at one point,
Oh,
and
okay.
and that's why I feel like the Power Girl is another one of those characters they just can't figure out exactly what they want to do with. And it feels like they're reverting back to they're like because they had Paige like working at the Daily Planet and doing things like that, and we had issues of her popping up, and I just don't know if it was because she was like, oh, trying to create a new identity, but yeah, I feel like Power Girl and Connor should be like on a team together and like out in space doing their own
Right.
thing.
I mean, that I think that could work. I think with the super family the way it is, the size and everything, the amount of people, you can have different adventures like that. They can all team up and do different adventures, either on Earth or out in space. You know,
Yeah.
Connor and Keenan do their thing with the in action book. Um,
Well, I like the idea of
Kara and Paige have a psychic connection
yeah, they do.
now, and you got to see that in um in the action books. Like, uh,
I feel like you could do a really awesome um what do you call it? You could just do a really awesome story with Superboy being Connor and Power Girl because they're like the extra duplicates, right? Because you already
that's
have what?
I was gonna say that was gonna be my next point was the point of the stories that they've been telling with Supergirl, uh, Power Girl, and Connor and Keenan are the fact that um, they are kind of like all they're new, and they're actually trying to pull them into the family. So if you do a story about them being the outside family, at the moment you're doing, something a little contradictory to what they're telling. But I could absolutely see that as a viable story option of them being at some point to tell a story like that.
I just think it'd be interesting because I feel like Keenan because I mean we still have the supposed to have the Justice League of China, basically, you know. And I could see Keenan being kind of that. He pops in and out, you know, and joins them here and there. I could see what I would think would be neat would be Connor and Power Girl kind of doing a hard traveling heroes type thing in space. As they're trying to find their purpose, you know, and who they are, because they feel, like I said, like duplicated, especially now as we get more into things going on. But hey, James, where are the twins?
Yeah, they have not been in this run of Action or Superman.
Once those are characters just kind of have disappeared. Because
For the last few months, we haven't seen them. No. I mean, the weekly, like I said, they've been focusing on a lot of other people. Superman book has been focused on Superman and Superwoman.
which is a nice
I've only gotten 2
segue.
issues of that.
So let's dive into Superman number 20. All right. Superman number 20. So this book it starts where we now know that the Time Trapper is an evolved version of Doomsday. In that not only does he come back to life, he evolves each time. And basically, he wants Superman to kill him again so that he'll be evolved and come back basically in God mode. And if he does that, you know, if he doesn't do that, he's going to kill everybody that Superman loves, right? But so we have that Doomsday, you know, evolved, skinny Time Trapper Doomsday, while real Doomsday is appearing, the one who's like escaping from hell. Remember that story that made no sense with his Doom dogs?
Yeah,
Doom
he's
hounds.
covered in hellfire.
So he's fighting with Superwoman, and Steel's there trying to help us like save people and get them to safety. We see bearded Lex Luthor save a little kid. I'm kind of digging bearded Lex Luthor right now.
Yeah.
This book is full of a lot of action. Like there's a lot going on. Mercy and the Justice League have a plan. They send in Parasite with troops from Supercorps. Parasite lands on Doomsday trying to absorb all of his energy. Superman's like, that's enough, Parasite. And Doomsday grabs Parasite and rips him in half. And we see Superman with a very shocked face. And Mercy's like, Rudy, no. He literally gets ripped in half, like the type of movies that James Cole likes to watch.
Yeah. Doomsday looks like the feral predator from Prey after he's holding that bear above his head and the blood is all coming down him.
Yes.
That bottom Doomsday is
intense. Now,
yeah.
as Superman fighting, they basically gave Superman blood pressure. Okay, problems. Because Superman, your red levels are rising because he has red kryptonite in him, and I totally forgot about this from Pharma and or Dr. Farm. I wanted to call him Pharma, wasn't it? And
yeah, Farm and Graft.
Yeah, I wanted to call him Pharma because I thought it sounded cooler, but that's just me.
No, you're just thinking Pharma.
That's why I wanted to call him Pharma, but
jerks. Evil.
But, you know, he takes out Doomsday. He's down. They're subduing him, and Superwoman's trying to get Superman out of there. We see Lois and Clark back at their apartment, and Clark uses his super breath on Lois's injured shoulder. So it's just kind of interesting. And then the final shot is a what's scarier than Doomsday? and we see a planet, and we see someone put on a mask that's like the containment suit that Doomsday had. And it
Yes.
says,
So
"The ultimate has returned. We have waited long enough. It is time for our revenge." So I'm
um
really digging this story. What about
yeah,
you? What you think on this
if you
issue?
know of Doomsday's history, Calaton is the first place that killed Doom, or the last place that killed Doomsday. The first or last. I think he rampaged across the galaxy, and then they killed him. The royal family. They did um, this ritual that merged them into an being, and they killed Doomsday. And he was wrapped in this funeral garb. That's what this mask is, and sent across the stars. He crashed on Earth. Some odd thousands of years ago, before he came back to life and broke his way out to kill Superman. Um, this planet is from Hunter Prey, the storyline
I need to
of
reread
Doomsday
that.
returning.
I need
Yeah,
to.
that's where this place is.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I'm digging. Uh, I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet because I saw it. I saw the pictures of the buildings and the name. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this. And then when I saw the mask, I was like, absolutely.
all right. So now we're gonna do Superman 21, and I am digging it. Right, save the date. So it starts out. We have Supergirl and Superwoman, aka Lois Lane, battling uh, in Metropolis, and they're talking about this. It's a secret too, a secret mission with Superman. She, and then we cut, and we have it's super date night. We see them flying. They're on the moon, and Clark talks about how they where is it? Their date. They were for dinner, and they were playing. Hold on, Mr. Terrific.
They're playing super darts.
Yeah, basically they're playing super darts. But I was looking for the quote because Mr. Terrific rigged it up so they could breathe on the moon. Um, and they're throwing giant masses of they're throwing rocks at a giant mass of target he made for darts with her superpowers, and he's
Right.
trying to give
Yeah,
them,
Lois says, "How are we going to breathe on the moon?" And he says, "Mr. Terrific whipped up a temporary oxygen stabilizer in this section."
which is really cool. And and then so they're playing darts. Then we cut to interlude one. The Adventures of Metropolis is It Couple, Jimmy Olsen and Silver Banshee. And it's just 3 panels of them sitting on the couch, eating popcorn, watching a movie. But each one, like the lighting is different, and Jimmy Olsen's faces change. Uh, like the last scene, like there's slight changes. Jimmy's face looks scared, and Shaban's looks chill.
Right.
Um,
Just makes me
but
wonder what they're watching.
yeah, and then we see like they're out on their date. We see um, Superman and Superwoman seeing a magic show from Zatanna, flying past dinosaurs, playing fetch in the air with Crypto, in Gym World having a picnic. They talk a little bit about his battle with Doomsday and how he feels about that, and what the Time Trapper had told him that if he didn't help him reach God mode, he would kill everything and I would be alone forever. Then Amethyst shows up, and I totally forgot about Amethyst. And there's a battle raging, and she needs Superman and Superwoman's help. And it's like to the battlefield, right? And then we have interlude 2. What does Doomsday dream about? And we see that Doomsday is at Supercourt with their synthetic black mercy venom, and it's just like him ripping apart Superman and crushing Superman's skull in his hand. And then they get to the battlefield and it's raging and Superman's trying to hold back the armies. Then all of a sudden we have a truce. It's all over. The war is over. Long live the queen, peace. And basically Superwoman got them to talk and was diplomatic and got them to stop.
Yeah. Onyx needed medication that could only be made from gems in House Amethyst's land. I helped them out a trade agreement.
Boom. Way to go, Lois. And then they have an idea that what they're really missing for their date adventure is Interlude 3, which is the coolest interlude. What did you? So it's Mercy working, and Lex pops in like, "Long night, Miss Graves." And she's like, "Mr. Luther, yes, I've been running scans and blah blah blah." And he's like, "Please call me Lex. I was here to see my daughter, but I have to be honest. I came to see you." She said, "Me?" He says, "Yes, I don't remember my past, but ever since we met, I can't stop thinking about you. Thought we could talk. Iced espresso with almond milk?" She says, "How did you know my favorite? Even before I didn't think you ever noticed." This is end interlude. Now, this made me think because I've been watching, I caught up on season 1 and I started season 2 of Severance on Apple TV.
Okay.
And one of them, excuse me, and one of the biggest things in that is the idea that our memories make us the people that we are. Because the premise of that show is these people have a surgery done that when they go to work, they don't remember who they are outside of work. So for the 8 hours at work, they're like new people. They have core memories of like basic things, but they don't remember who they are outside, like their names, their life or whatever. And then when they leave work, they go back to their normal person, but they don't remember what they did at work.
Hmm.
And they get into the concept of, when you're at work, you never feel like you leave because you have no memory of sleep or of leaving. You just remember like walking out like to the elevator, and then the elevator opens again and you're back at work.
Oof.
And
That'd
and
be
it all
rough.
and it gets into how they're treated almost like children because of like their mental states and the environment, but how they craft new personalities and they're basically new people not having the memories of their experiences of life. And it's a really interesting concept. And this is what this made me think of is who is Lex without his memories?
Yeah.
So we get back to Clark and Lois walking around Smallville on a date. And he says, "You want to see my parents?" And she's like, "No, I love your parents, but I do not think that would be the most exciting end of our date." And then they kiss and they hear Superman, Superwoman, and they start taking off and they find Supergirl. And then we see an armada arriving, and it is the aftermath. "This is my people's funeral garb. We wear it now because Doomsday has turned us into living death. You have exactly 1 Earth hour to turn Doomsday over to us, or we will grant you the same mercy that monster granted our people, and we will kill everyone on your world. To be continued. And what do you do with a monster like Doomsday?"
I think that's the premise of the story.
Yeah, and I'm liking the way that Doomsday is being used in here because I feel like Doomsday was very much a one note villain, and we've seen a lot of evolution of Doomsday over the past few years
Yeah.
of what to do with that character. Um,
Yeah. I know we discussed some of Doomsday and everything and what they've done with him recently, but like when they used him in the past, he was that creature. It was so like the second time he fought him was like um this creature that is immortal and impervious to being basically beaten to death the way he was, can no longer be killed that way. So how do you stop a creature that can come back, be killed again? Um, and that's when him at the end of time, but that at the point of entropy. and then that's where the next time you see him, Brainiac has taken Doomsday, and he wanted to possess Doomsday's body and fight. And how are they going to do that? Well, as they and Doomsday purges Brainiac from him, they basically make Doomsday stuck between transporters, so he's never fully a full body, a full corporeal being again. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, they use Doomsday in a couple of ways to bring him back that were very interesting, but then especially after that, it's like, what do you do with him? And they've expanded his powers.
Yeah, I mean, they've
Done
made him
different
more
things.
and more Kryptonian like
Yeah,
based by giving him almost the ability to the ability to
yeah,
fly, heat
yeah. But I
vision.
think the ancient Kryptonian, the way he didn't have the same abilities as a modern Kryptonian.
No, and
That's
that's I'm
hundreds of
saying,
thousands of years of evolution of the Kryptonian race.
and that's why I'm just saying like they keep advancing Doomsday and what he can do and who he is. It makes him
So
more and more
I feel like
dangerous.
that idea of his evolution, him becoming more evolved, like the Time Trapper, that's interesting because it takes him so far past what people have considered what to do with Doomsday.
Hmm.
What is he on the other end of the scale if he is constantly killed and come back and can never die, and for hundreds of thousands or millions of years, what does that look like? You got a Doomsday who travels through time, controls time,
Yeah,
who
and I
wants
mean
to
it's
be
just
a god.
it's interesting because the original Doomsday was they would it would die and then they would like clone it from then later it was basically he would die and then that same body would come back. So it's our last issue for today is Superwoman special. This was an awesome issue. It opens, this is where we're learning Lois's story of how she got her powers, and I really enjoyed this issue. um, we have Lois in the Daily Planet office, and then we have show up. Who shows up, James?
Well, it is Kara and Lana, which I wasn't sure who that was when I was reading that. Was that the third page they show up? I was like, is that Paige and Omen?
Yeah.
Because they're like a blonde and a redhead.
Yep. And
And
she's
then
wearing a green shirt.
yeah, and then the green shirt, yeah. Um, but yeah, turn the page and you've got Superwoman Red and
Yep.
Supergirl
Yeah.
along with
And then
Superwoman.
we have I sent you this screenshot. It says, uh, I used to only get this coffee from my favorite cafe if Clark had a free second. And they're in Paris. She says, just one of the many perks of superpowers. Are you good with the whole Superwoman thing, Lana? Oh, sure. Oh, sure. I'm Superwoman Red, and you're Superwoman Blue. If there can be a zillion Green Lanterns, I think we can share. Hey, so real talk. Why were you yelling at yourself in the office? But I just had to send you the Superwoman Red, Superwoman Blue, which is
Yeah,
awesome because that's kind of what they are in a sense. Um, even though Red's power is a little bit more of like the energy based.
yeah. Which
Um,
actually, back in the New 52, when they had the Superwoman book, they had Lois and and Lana as Superwoman Red and Superwoman Blue, or
and then that
flipped
first
that in
issue,
person. But they were electric. They had the electric powers. That's what they look like.
and then that first issue, Lois just kaputs. But she tells her story that during the whole Absolute Power with Amanda Waller.
Well, that's
Uh,
lame.
I know. Have you read that book?
I've wanted to. That's one I
Oh,
haven't
you
gotten
should.
back to.
You should. I did. It's good. It's good. Um, but they had to get rid of that New 52 Lois somehow to make room for Rebirth Lois. So, but it's all
Right.
it's all. Lois put on a power suit from designed. The armor had connected to all her super amazos, and she flew out. And during the part where they take out the amazos and the powers are being given back, she felt it, and she her suit basically shortens out. She falls in the water, and then she wakes up on top of the Daily Planet. And as the book's going, it's her Lois's story about how she loves her superpowers. We see her as editor. We see her lift up the couch in Perry's office. We see her at Supercore. We see like Lois comes in. She's trying to talk to Mercy and Lena, and like they're basically brushing her off, and she's like saying she needs to talk to him, and then she just talk about how they love this desk they have, and then she just bam,
smash. Lois smash.
And then Mercy's like, I see. Lena, cancel all my appointments, please. Something's come up. And she says how she went to Mercy and them first before going to the super family. And they were running tests trying to see what's going on. And they basically feel like she got her powers because they came from something during the Amazo time. We see Lois, we're cutting back and forth from the past, and now she's walking down the street, and there's some fire with the police, and she saves the police officer. And that's how she learned that she was faster than a speeding bullet. She kept the bullet, as a reminder, because she actually got hit. And then, this shows the first time that Clark comes home and she's wearing glasses and everything. He says, why are you wearing glasses? And she's like, dramatic effect.
Toss off her glasses and shirt rip.
And this is right after the Phantom Zone stuff, because he says, Jimmy said you weren't at the Daily Planet. You said you wanted to talk in private. I mean, I know I was in the Phantom Zone for a while. And she says, Clark, there's something I need to tell you. And then boom, I'm Superwoman. And he's like, okay. And she's like, you seem confused. Watch. And she flies off the balcony. And he's like, I have questions. Like, I'm in the Phantom Zone for a while, and I come back, and everybody's got powers. My wife's got powers. And
yeah. Says the interview can wait. Fly with me.
And we see them flying, and this is where they go and talk to Mr. Terrific and everything.
The atoms.
Yeah, I forgot that there was the atoms. They're behind.
Yeah.
And basically, he says, this possesses a fascinating question, Miss Lane. Do you use the powers knowing you could burn them out, or not use them and just hang on to them for a rainy day? So potentially her powers could leave her at some time. And she says, so what's next? And Superman says, we train. So he starts teaching Lois how to use her powers. And we see them saving people as she joins the super family. And we have a great, they're fighting some fire monster thingies. Brimstone. Yeah, I was like, where is this?
Yeah.
I thought brimstones were giants. They usually are, but these, they combined. That's what it was. What happens when they become one? They're getting hotter. We have John being choked, squeezed to death. I got you, son. Boom. And he's like, Mom? And he says, did I miss a meeting? Like,
right. You're missing a lot, John. You're never around.
Yeah, basically. And this whole thing's kind of being told also in the framework of Lois having writer's block as a writer and not wanting to write about herself as Superwoman. And then she's able to, she says, done, take that writer's block.
Well, I like it because when they talk about her writer's block, and she says, I think I know why you're having writer's block. She says, you're not being honest with yourself. After years of being on the sidelines, you don't want to admit that you love having these powers. You're right. I know they're a privilege. I feel, I don't know, to enjoy them this much. And Kara says, welcome to the club. And Lana says, "Have a good night. We'll have to do this again."
And we hear, "Help, please help." And she, whoosh, she's out. She's flying. And it says file deleted, cancel, or delete. So that what she typed up is still sitting on her computer. She was trying to delete it, but she didn't finish deleting it. And then we have the epilogue where it says, "You lied." This is Lena talking to Mercy. "We found Lois's armor." Supposedly the armor was missing. Not only that, we saw that, yes, the armor was connected to the Super Mezos, but it's bigger than that. The armor was meant for space travel and was reaching out for signals in deep space. Why not tell Lois? Trust me, this is best, Lena. Lois can never know why Lex built that armor. When Waller's Super Mezos were destroyed, powers at Superman's level are extremely rare. Then we're intercutting with the Atoms talking about how some of the powers were mixed up and how some of them didn't return. So the big question, who has powers like his is unaccounted for. They all still have their powers. So the big question is, whose powers did Superwoman steal? And what happens when they find out she took them? And who do we see out in space?
Zod.
We see Zod. It says the beginning. So that's a really cool way of explaining how Superwoman got her powers.
Yeah. How somehow with the signal and the Amazos, it was connected to Zod or his ships or something, and it zapped his powers and gave them to Lois. Is what it seems.
And so I thought that was pretty clever.
Now I have to go back and finish Kneel Before Zod.
Yeah, you do that. You can do that. That's your assignment. James Cole's assignment is Kneel Before Zod.
Gotcha.
So, and just for everyone to know, we will catch up and talk absolutes later. But we're going to kind of wait till we get at least the first arc, first 6 issues. Like, it's usually about 6 issues is right around where we get like a complete story arc. So we'll wait for that, and then we'll talk Absolute Superman again. I don't really want to do it issue by issue. I want to kind of wait till we have a better idea of this whole story.
Yeah.
world.
I mean, just to throw it out there, though, it was a good issue. Issue 2 was pretty good.
I agree, and we'll break that down. But
it was interesting. So, yeah, there's that. But yeah, the Superman books are really good so far.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, most of them so far that we've read. And we got 2 issues of Justice League Unlimited. I only began reading the first. So sure, we'll catch that as the arc concludes, so we know kind of how Justice League has been reformed post Absolute Power.
Yep, and we will get into that a little bit later too. Just like I said, let a couple of issues get under the belt. So, all right,
yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us on Krypton Report. Leave us a comment, review, message us, and remember,
look up in the sky!
Thank you for checking out the Krypton Report. Please click our link tree in the show notes to follow us on your favorite social media platform. We have a $1 Patreon, just $1 a month to keep us going. And in return, you get exclusive shows and specials. If you want to join us on an episode, send us an email or a message.